welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and this is one of your Christmas episodes that you are obviously getting late, but as promised, you're still going to be getting any episode, which you might not have heard that, any episode that is not coming your way when they were supposed to, you are still going to be getting them. So don't worry, you're still getting all of the episodes as promised. So, yeah, so we're doing Match Me Abroad. We're going to be splitting the couples up. So each episode is going to be included in these two episodes that you're going to be getting. We're going to be splitting the couples or the people, not couples, the people up. So you're going to be getting 3 for each episode. And you're basically going to be getting like one Ireland, one Singapore, and one Brazil. So you're going to be getting, that's kind of how we're doing it. It just happened that way. But that's what we're going to be doing. But you're going to be getting 3 in each episode. So let's get into our first person that we're going to be talking about. So Amber, if you remember Amber, she is the one who is heading to Ireland. Her matchmaker is going to be Katarina. Again, if you don't remember Katarina was in the first season, and she was in Czech Republic. So that's who we're with first. So Amber, she's 38 years old. She's a makeup artist. And she's kind of like, you know what? The American men suck. She's kind of over this. She wants something a little different. She wants to try a little bit of an Irishman. Don't blame her. She kind of wants a Colin Farrell type, which don't we all want a Colin Farrell type? They just don't friggin' exist. More on that, because we're going to notice that a lot of these people, mainly the women, are we like, I want this. It's like, yeah, so do all of us, but that just doesn't exist past the person you're talking about. Anyway, Amber has been engaged 3 times. So what's another? In 2018, we do learn a little bit more about her medical history. She was diagnosed with, and this hits hard because my mom literally is dealing with this now. Watching this originally, this was not something that, was a reality for my family, but now it is. So I'm just like, yikes. But anyway, she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. She had a really bad cough. So did my mom. My mom had a very bad cough that had been lingering, and we just attributed it to COVID. We did not, and again, like 2018 for Amber, that was not a reality for her. But in, post 2020, we were just kind of contributing it to long COVID. We didn't think anything of it, but it's crazy to kind of see, okay, so this is actually a symptom. And I think Amber talking about it is very good in the sense where people, because again, with congestive heart failure that we've kind of learned in now my family's experience, it's kind of like the signs for it can be attributed to anything else. And you would not think that it's this. So yeah, she said she had a bad cough and her heart was functioning at 25%. So even lower than even my mom's, but still not, it's low and it's no good. And yeah, like I can imagine her being, how old is she now? I can't remember, 38. Um, being, about 15 years younger than my mother. It's kind of, again, just kind of seeing what my mom's had to go through with the medications, the different appointments, the things that are available here in Canada. I can't speak to what's available in the States, but it's imagine it's a lot for a woman her age. And again, in 2018, she was younger. Would have been in her early to mid 30s. So it's a lot. Anyway, we kind of then move on from, now she's in Ireland. We move on from that. and we are seeing Katerina hosting a singles mixer. My autocorrect went to shingles mixer, and we don't want that. So anyway, at the mixer, Amber meets Kevin, one of a few here that we're going to be seeing her with. And they're just seriously flirting. Like they're looking in each other's eyes. She's really into this. They're giggling. Like yeah. And Katerina is like, listen, I just don't want her to fall in love quickly with the first person she sees. Like, this is clearly something that's a little bit of her track record. So she doesn't want her going through the same thing. Totally get it. So with Keeban, when she goes on another date with him outside of the mixer, she learns that Keevan lives with his parents and she isn't about this. She immediately is like, I want someone who's financially stable. Okay, so just to say, just because he lives at home does not mean he's financially stable. You're not in the States. You're in Ireland. You're in Europe. So you need to ask yourself, is this typical? Is this something that happens in Ireland? Is it normal for there to be, um, you know, different, multiple generations in a home? Like, example, that's kind of how it is. We've seen it in India. It's how it is in Jamaica. This is just how it is. This is normal. So she's immediately jumping to, oh, he's not financially stable, but we do not know that. And she doesn't ask those questions of him or Katerina or Google AI. She doesn't ask any questions. She just immediately jumps to, well, he's clearly not financially stable. He never once said that he wasn't stable. So it drove me nuts because my first reaction then and now, same reaction, even though like a little later in the episodes, it is brought up like this is a normal thing. Um, my first thing was, well, where's the context for why he lives with his mother or his parents? Is it just this is a normal thing that happens in Ireland? Did he move back home for one reason or another? Like whether it was for them or maybe he lost a job and he's getting back on track. Like things happen. And for people to immediately go to, well, you're not financially stable. It's like, but shit happens. Have you not lost a job before where like you maybe can't survive to live at home? Did he maybe move back home during COVID? Like many people did during that time? Like there's just so many different things that you could ask and she just doesn't go there. Drove me nuts. Anyways, Katerina's going to set up another date with someone who has his own property, in particular a farm. So more on that now. We are going on that date with a man named Paul who lives in the countryside. Um, as Katerina says in this moment, it is typical for men in Ireland to live with their parents until they are married. That is not abnormal. That is something that is actually pretty freaking typical in many other countries in the world. That's just how things are. So, you know, let's go to our guy Paul here who lives in the countryside. When they get there, she's like, "What the fuck? I thought it would be like a lavish estate. It's a backyard shed." Ma'am, first of all, why did you think it'd be a lavish estate? Because it's Ireland and you think everybody has the rolling hills and shit? No. The man has a farm. He has built his homestead, and that's a huge accomplishment. And it is not his problem that you were expecting a lavish estate. It is your problem that you were expecting a lavish estate, and instead of that, you quote unquote got a backyard shed. Rude. Rude. Let's see you do what he's about to do. I mean, I'll get to that. When he comes out, it's literally, let's make something. And she says, Paul's cute. I didn't see it. But total opposite of Kevin. Kevin is cute, in my opinion. But anyways, he was actually wearing a shirt, and I missed this the first time I watched the show, but he was wearing a shirt um, that says, "Hi, my name is Paul," and he's wearing Crocs. First of all, I hate Crocs. Secondly, I want to say something bad about the shirt, but I can't. And here's why. It's smart. You can't forget my name because my name's there on the shirt. Makes sense. But she's like, he's not putting any effort in, blah, blah, blah. Kevin was wearing a suit. Here's the problem, ma'am. If you are going to compare any other date to Kevin, well, they're all going to fail. You can't be saying, I'm going to come into this with an open mind, but then your mind is not open. But anyways, she says, I hope my location is on because she doesn't want to be kidnapped and shit. Ma'am, you have a camera crew. The driver drove you here. If he does anything to you, but at least they know who did it. You know what I mean? So he makes her tea with mint from the garden. This is this is great. He says all of his food comes from the garden. That's great. This is perfect, right? This is amazing. Like he makes his own. You know that tea tasted damn fine. But would I have drank it? I do not know because here we go. How long does it take your food to go bad? He says, well, I don't have a fridge. He says, I'm going to try not to make my food go bad. Like, it's not going to happen. He explains that not only does he not have a fridge, but he also has something called a compost toilet. What is a compost toilet, you say? Well, he says, he poops and makes a deposit, as he says, but I say poop, and then puts it in the garden. Y'all, if you're not understanding what I'm saying here, he shits, takes said shit, and puts it in the garden. The same garden where he got his mint, the same mint from the garden with the shit that he just gave Amber in her tea. Y'all, my girl's drinking poop tea brings a whole new meaning to poop tea. Poop tea. Now, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure that she straight up says the tea is phenomenal, but the tea is poop tea because it came from his poop. I mean, listen, manure's great. I just don't know how I feel about human poop being said fertilizer. I feel like if you're, no poop is good poop in this situation. But anyways, here's my thing. If you're going to give her the poop tea, give her the poop tea. Don't tell her it's poop tea. Don't tell her that. Because now she's going to look at you and be like, I just drank your shit. And it's just, it's going to be a really awkward situation. And yeah. So that's that date. She got through it somehow. So we go past the poop tea situation, the poop tea date, and we are going back to her seeing Kevin again. Their date is going to be them drinking Guinness because what else do you do in Ireland but drink some Guinness? Then they kiss and some random and as they're kissing is like, go on and kiss her. That was British. But she says, I haven't had sex in so long that it felt like a sexual eruption. Ma'am, if a kiss felt like a sexual eruption, well, damn, it has been a while, hasn't it? Anyway, we're trying to try a different day now. A date that's not Paul and his poop tea. So she's going to be meeting Glenn. And she says, though, before we kind of get to Glenn, that the date with Kevin, she said was great, afterwards, but the communication, she said, has been off. She feels like he's just not making a lot of effort, so we're going to try a little something with Glenn. So Glenn, he's a life coach, and this year's Mr. Ireland. So that shit has gone to his head. Anyway, they're going to be going to a castle that actually used to be a prison because, yes, and this place is haunted. They seem to be aligning a lot, though, her and not Kevin, well, her and Glenn. And now we are meeting his parents. Wait, what? This doesn't feel right. The minute this man's like, "How about we go meet, my parents?" And I'm like, No. No, thanks. No, thanks." We're gonna kinda get into this a little bit more, so I'll wait till we get there, but I knew something was not right with this guy from the jump. I don't know if it was his face or the fact that his face doesn't move or the Mr. Ireland, I don't know what it was, but, anyway, so they go to meet the parents, and he says, "I like bringing dates back to my parents because I'm looking for something serious, so, like, might as well know if it's gonna work off the bat." Yeah. So her dad, when they get there, her dad is like, "You look like that brilliant singer. What is her name? Your hair kinda looks like her." I'm like, "Oh, shit. You're not seriously gonna say Diana Ross right now. Don't say it. Don't say that this black girl whose hair is poof, you're gonna then say she looks like Diana Ross." Bec oh, Jesus Christ. But he went there and he said it. He said, "Yeah, Diana Ross," and you know what? She's like, "I could say something. I could, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna leave it alone." And I'm just like, "No, girl, you're better than me." Because I would've been like, "So what, because I'm black, you're going to immediately say I look like Diana Ross because my hair is a poof ball? You're gonna literally say Diana Ross?" Lord Jesus. So she lets it go. But they do talk about the fact that she used to do clogging when she was a kid. She gets up and she starts clogging. Yeah. They all seem to get along sans the Diana Ross comment. But Katarina says, once Amber kind of says, "Oh, yeah, I met his parents," Katarina says, "Glenn had her meet his parents already." This feels a little bit like love bombing. Say it again, Katarina, for the people in the back. Yeah, it is. It legitimately is. It feels weird. Why would you want to? Anyway, she tells Kevin, "You like her? You need to tell her." Here's the thing. I do think Kevin's a better guy. I do think Kevin's a very nice guy. And I do understand, though, from Amber's perspective, that she has a limited amount of time here. Kevin needs to step it up. I totally hear her. But damn. Um, so now Amber has an overnight date with Kevin. But now she's feeling conflicted because she likes Kevin, she likes Glenn. But also the other thing is Glenn in her mind is making more of an effort. So that's kind of where maybe her mind's at. And she doesn't know where Kevin stands, whereas Glenn has been texting her every day and wants to be the number one guy. Again, maybe he is just doing everything you want him to. Because of the thing, Glenn knows everything. Glenn knows that she is on these dates with Kevin, that Kevin's not giving her what she needs. So he's playing to that. Whereas Kevin doesn't know everything. Kevin knows she was going on the date. Whether she knew it was with Mr. Ireland, who knows? But he knows about the date, but he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know that Glenn has been a little bit more forthcoming in her mind. He doesn't know any of those things. So it's kind of like, who's a little bit more authentic in this moment? Because you're feeding everything to Glenn, and Glenn is taking that information and using it as he so chooses. So she tells him, "So I was in Cork for another date. I met his family." And he says, again, this is what she's saying about Glenn. He even says, "Hey, I just wanted to give you space to date because that is why you're here." And here, I do hear her here. She says, "Don't give me space, apply pressure." I understand that. But then maybe also the other thing is, maybe he just thinks that's what you need. Maybe he doesn't want to overstep and smother. Maybe you need to communicate what you need. It's okay for us women to communicate what we need to our men. It's okay because they're dumb. So she texts Glenn while it's on his date with Kevin, which I two things here. Why are you texting um Glenn while you were on a date with another guy? Because I'm sure you did not text Kevin while you were on the date with Glenn. Secondly, wireless is a word she's never heard before. Uh, it is a word. It is a word. She she's just never heard the word before, and she's like, "Is that what we say down here in Ireland?" No, it's what we say in the world. Okay. But anyways, the next morning after she's been on the date with Kevin, they're doing some archery, but y'all don't you worry, they did not have sex. She wants to stay clear-minded, but they do wager during archery. If he wins, she has to date only him. But unfortunately for Kevin, he lost. So Glenn is still on the table. So she has, that's wraps up. She has another day with Glenn doing traditional dancing. She's considering in this moment to end things with Kevin. Yikes. More on that later. So she was at the club. We kind of see her talking about the situation. So she was at a club with Glenn. She goes to the bathroom, comes back, and he's gone. She Ubers home and texted him, but no response. She checks his Instagram and he's been posting nonstop, but not once did he think to check on her. She's like, what if I got kidnapped? Okay, here's the thing. Chances are you're not going to get kidnapped while in Ireland. You're just not. Secondly, you are home. Not that big of a deal. You are fine. On the other hand, is it a little bit annoying that he didn't check on you? Sure, absolutely. But it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's just me, but it's not that huge of a deal personally. But anyways, the next day they're meeting up and he asks or sorry, meeting up and he didn't ask um how I got home or how I am. Just what time are we meeting? That's all he asked. So he's here and he's like, so how's your morning? What time did you get home? It was good and the good night, until you left me is what she says. Well, no, I didn't. But you did. You did. And he says, I went to the bathroom. I text you twice asking where you are. It's just, you text me. Where them text? Because I don't remember seeing them. And he says, you went home on your own accord. God damn. And she says, no, I didn't. But oh, you kind of did. You kinda did, because honestly, if you felt like that afraid of your own shadow, um, then you would have stayed in the club until you got a hold of him. Instead, you didn't. Now, is it possible she could have had no service? Absolutely. But eventually those text messages are coming through to her, if they existed. Um, but anyway, she says, "No, I didn't leave on my own accord. You left me. You didn't care about me. You didn't check on me. You're an attention whore," is basically what she says to him. Now, here's my thing. Can we back up here? Okay. You left me. We actually don't know that for a fact, whether or not he did or he didn't. You didn't care about me. You didn't check on me. Well, according to her, that's gotta be true. You're an attention whore because he's Mr. Ireland? Because he's on the show? It's a little weird that is a thing that comes up here. But again, it's like she really is blowing this out of proportion. He left you, cool. You didn't like that, fine. Just say to him, hey, you know what? In future, can you not do that? I was this, that, or the other, and I would really prefer if you just didn't, something. And he says, you're the one here looking for love. God damn. So he's basically saying the thing, the wife part out loud. You're here finding some love. You're on a TV show and you opted to be on said TV show ahead of time. But I'm the attention whore. Okay, cool. It's funny. And he then throws this one in, which I think would piss off any woman. He says, no wonder you're single. Shit. Listen, men, word of warning. If you're going to be talking to a woman and if she's single, don't throw in, no wonder you're single, because then it will be, well, I'm sorry. Well, if you're really not wondering why I'm single, I'm really not going to wonder why you no longer have a dick because I chopped it off. Thank you very much. The hell? It's just rude. Then my girl ends up throwing the Guinness right on him that actually gets on her more than it does him, but then she just walks out. He says, I didn't leave her. Well, you kind of did. He says that she was with Victoria and Darren, more on Victoria and Darren in the next episode. But something this small for that reaction, she ain't the one. I have to agree with him on that part for sure. Um, so now she's gonna end up texting Kevin after I don't think she's talked to him for a few days. So, but as expected, she tried texting Kevin, but there was no response. She's hoping that he will show up. Katerina did talk to him about what happened, and he does end up showing up to say goodbye, and I was pissed because I'm like, "Nah, boy, you need to just stay away from this person because she wanted nothing to do with you, and then the minute it doesn't go good with the other guy is when she wants to talk to you." Like, nah, say, keep that energy for somebody else. You know what I mean? Anyways, she she does she does apologize to him, and it's basically a wrap. It's basically a wrap, y'all, with Amber. So the update at the end of her stuff was when she got home, she stopped hearing from Kevin. No surprise there for many reasons. She did hear from someone she used to work with and is now expecting. And I'm sure at this point she has probably had her baby. Congratulations to her. Now, let's move on to Monica. Ugh, she's 41. She has a dog and a cat that keep her busy and shit, whatever. She runs in marathons, whoop de fucking do. She has a daughter named Alyssa. She's 21. Monica was 19 when she had her. But Monica's going to be dating in Brazil. And we meet her matchmaker, Louisa, who is awesome and deserves a goddamn medal for the other person she gets to work with. More on him in the next episode. Louisa ends up video calling Monica to just kind of give her a taste of what she could be seeing when she comes to Brazil. And that little taste of Brazil is named Bruno. And y'all, we don't talk about Bruno, but we will be talking about Bruno. Poor Bruno. Um, she says, "Oh, I really like Bruno." And it's kind of like the guy she really wants to see now. Ooh, ooh. Anyways, when she does get into Brazil, though, Louisa does tell her, hey, yeah, I know you really liked Bruno, but Bruno is not the guy you're going to be having your first date with. No, 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 no. Your first date is going to be with Bernardo. Oh, God, Bernardo. They're going to be playing foot volley, which I guess is kind of like soccer football or soccer base. What do we call it back in the day? Soccer baseball, except it's soccer volley, foot volley, whatever. It's sports. And he has friends with him, which is like, okay, this is supposed to be the first date and you're being tagged along with by his friend. That's weird. But, they'll take their shirts off, and it's like, "Oh, goddamn." She's like, "Ooh, okay. So do you pay your bills on time?" What a question. No, bitch, no. I don't pay my bills on time. What's on time? I pay my bills when I pay my bills. Who gives a shit? Who asks questions like this? Do you pay your bills on time? She says finances are important to me. I think finances are important to a lot of people, but he doesn't have kids and he would like to have them. But y'all, she's 41 years old and she said, listen, one and done. I don't want no more kids. My oldest is 21. Why start again? You know? And they are going to take the date to another wait, but they are going to take the date to another place. I don't understand. But anyways, basically, let's just put it this way, Bernardo, it's like, you don't want kids, but I do? Well, shit, maybe I just won't have kids then. What? Anyway, they go to a bar and she tells him, or no, so she has told him they're taking each other place. Maybe they're going to be doing like a kind of like when in The Bachelor they have like a one-on-one date and they do like the fun thing and then they do the dinner portion. Yeah. So they're at the bar and this is where she tells him, I don't want more kids. And he says, listen, I didn't plan for this, but hey, you never know. Okay. She wants to meet someone who she can travel with and have fun with. Both kids are expensive. I wouldn't be paying my bills on time if I had more kids because those kids, swallow finances. Yeah. So, yeah. Um, he says, well, I have no problem not having kids, even though 2 seconds ago I said I wanted to have kids. I would like to have more time with you. And he says, can I walk you home? And he does. And then they kiss a lot. And I'm thinking, God damn, we just got here. But that is fine. Then she, in the next scene, has her first date with Bruno. And they go rollerblading, some more activities, and she doesn't know how to rollerblade. Well, here's the thing. Before she had her date with Bruno, Louisa and her powwowed about the date with Bernardo. And during that time, Monica did mention that they had kissed. And Louisa says, hey, how about we don't kiss on the first date? So how about we don't kiss Bruno right now? Well, fuck that advice. She ends up kissing Bruno. And yeah. And she says, while kissing Bruno, like I was thinking about Bernardo and, you know, you know. So she feels like she needs to tell Bernardo about Bruno. And so she's crying because I really like Bruno and I like Bernardo. I feel like I'm cheating, even though I owe nothing to anybody, but I feel like I'm cheating. Bernardo has become a thread in my life after one fucking day, but he's become a thread in my life. I want to be open, so let me tell him that I went on this date and that I kissed another man. And she's crying while she's telling him, and she says, I had a great date today. Why'd you gotta say it like that? I had a great date today and it wasn't with you. No, why'd you gotta say it like that? To say I went on a date today, whatever. But anyways, I had a great date today and I like him too. And I kissed him a couple of times. I mean, say something, please. Say something. Listen, so you're gonna fucking tell him that you kiss another guy, not for him, but for you, because you need the gratification. And then when you tell him and he doesn't say anything for a second, you're literally like, please say something. My God, made the man process what you just told him. My shit. I hate this woman. Not as much as I'm gonna hate Tony. More on that later. But yeah, so she's like, say something. And he says, well, what can I say? And she's like, I feel so bad. And he says, Listen, you were honest with me. Oh my God. And that's great. Thank you so much for believing in me after one fucking day. So let's meet up if you're free. The fuck? So when she meets up with Louisa, she tells her, so I did kiss Bruno. I didn't take any of your fucking advice. Why would I? And then I ended up calling Bernardo when I told him everything. And even Louisa's like, what's everything? Oh, I told him that I kissed Bruno. Why? Like, even Louise is like, why? You're not in a relationship with either of these men. You owe them nothing at this point. She, I think I'm starting to understand maybe why she's single. You know what I mean? So she has her second date with Bruno at his house. They're having dinner. So it all goes good, whatever. Then we see her meeting up with Bernardo. And she's like, you know what, Bernardo, I have a bone to pick with you. Even though that I told you that I kissed another man literally 2 days ago, I still have a bone to pick with you. Yeah. Apparently, he doesn't take initiative. Apparently, you take too much initiative, but that's fine. She always has to arrange dates with him. Maybe that's because he's just not that into you. You know what I mean? Take the hint. Shit. Anyways, so go that to arrange dates. And he says, well, it's just hard because, like, you have another connection. Really, though? Really? The fuck? I can't. Anyways, she says, well, he lets his feelings known. Okay, wait a hot minute. What? So Bruno makes his feelings known, which true, but we forget we don't talk about Bruno. We talk too much about Bernardo. It's Bernardo this and Bernardo that. Like it's, but okay. Um, she says, well, yeah, she lets his feelings known. Will you will you try harder? If you have to ask the man to try harder, then he ain't the man. You know what I mean? Because a man doesn't have to be told to try harder. A man will just try harder. End of discussion. Don't beg a man to do. Okay. He says, well, of course. No, he won't. It won't happen again. Yes, it will. So she had a date with Bernardo. It was at 5 o'clock. But it wasn't until 7:30 that he ended up texting her saying, I'm at foot volley. So I ain't fucking coming. Actually, he said he was gonna come after, but he's not coming, okay? After they had a date scheduled for 5 o'clock. And she says, "What? Am I booty call? Is that what I am? Well, if you act like it, I guess maybe you would be it. Who knows?" Okay. If there is any issues with my audio at this point of the recording, because I had to plug my computer in, I don't know why it died so quickly. So here we go. Anyway, she's like, I think there's some toxicity in me. No shit, honey bunny. That I still want to see him. But like I also don't. Because I know he'll just get what he wants. And what's that? What's he gonna get? You know what I mean? So I won't see him. Bruno would have been here. Bruno would have never. Okay. Um, it's like the movie Titanic. Bernardo is Jack. Love and passion and rough around the edges. And Bruno is Cal. Good on paper. Bitch, what? Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know if you watched the same movie that I did. Bernardo is Jack. Love, passion, and rough around the edges. Okay, love, sure. Passion, yeah. Rough around the edges, he was low class. He had no choice but to be rough around the edges. Next, Cal. Good on paper? Bitch. Good on paper, she says. Cal, we literally watched slap Kate Winslet in the face and try to persuade her with the heart of the ocean. Huh, you know what I mean? But okay, her and her heart will go on. Louisa has this great idea to help Monica pick a man. After Monica opens up about how good Bruno is, the cow to her rose, you know, and how much Bernardo does not show that he wants to be in this. So, not the Jack? I'm confused. But, anyways, but she does not want to make a decision because she wants the best of both worlds. Like Hannah freaking Montana. Okay. She says, I like Bernardo. He's very attractive to me. It's like an analogy of a Frenchman making love to me all day. And I just feel a bit smothered by Bruno. Okay. Wait, what? So, first of all, have you experienced a Frenchman making love to you all day? First question. Probably not. Number two, why is Bernardo the Frenchman? Why can't he just be the Brazilian? You know what I mean? He's already ethnic, I guess, for her. And I'm confused. And Bruno is smothering? Uh, bu- But wait, how is he smothering, yet you're over here crying to Bernardo about kissing Bruno in the first damn place? I am confused. So, Louisa has the great idea, so let's jump into it. I have invited both of these men here so you can make a decision. Shit. I like Louisa. And Monica's like, together? Like Ashley and Fred as well. Yes, ma'am, together. So they show up, they both plead their cases, and she immediately starts crying because of course she does. And the only person who comforts her is Bruno in this moment. Bernardo's just sitting there like he's stone. Like he got zapped by Medusa or something. He ain't moving, he ain't doing shit. To hold on to that for later. But she chooses Bruno, even though she really, really likes Bernardo or Frenchman or Jack, you know? And she walks Bernardo out, but Bernardo's like, this isn't over. She'll be back. Hold on to that too. So things have been going well with Bruno, but she's like, I'm not comfortable with my decision anymore. Her heart is bleeding like Leona Lewis. It's just bleeding. She doesn't love Bruno. She doesn't want to make a logical decision anymore. And Bruno, goddamn it, he is the logical decision. So she's gonna end things with Bruno. Yeah. So she tells him when he comes to her hotel, she says, you did nothing wrong. But I also still have strong feelings for Bernardo. As Bruno says in this moment, which I agree with, so why didn't you pick Bernardo? Why'd you pick me? And she's like, but I like him. Like, Daddy, can I have $300? Like, kind of like that. So she likes him. And he says, so you're going to pick the wrong guy. Boom. But that ain't your problem no more. Because Bruno leaves. And what does she do as soon as she leaves? Is she calls Bernardo. And Bernardo does come because he said it straight up. This ain't done. He was right. And he spends the night with her. And yeah. So the next day after Bernardo has dipped on out, she does tell Louisa, so let me give you the update. So yeah, I dumped Bruno because like I want Bernardo. And Louisa's like, this is some messy shit. But I wish you all the best. Anyways, the update at the end of her stuff is that her and Bernardo are in a long distance relationship and they appear to have been making it work at the time of that. Don't know, don't care if they're still working out. Good luck to her. Let's move on to our final guy of this episode, and that is Harold. Harold, Remember Harold? He was on the first season. He was with Katarina, and that is where he met Michaela, and they were just a match made in heaven. It didn't work out though. So yes, we have Harold back. He's now living in Texas with his 90-year-old grandma. He was in New Mexico. This time he's going to be going to Singapore, and his matchmaker we meet is Dolly. She tells him, whatever you do, don't be yourself. Because that's what every person wants to hear. Don't be yourself, because being yourself is no good. She's like, I want you to be Harold 2.0. So she goes through his clothes, kind of like Katarina did. And she's like, so you'll sweat in that because he has like, I think he had like cashmere sweaters. She's like, you're going to sweat in that. And don't forget, y'all, the famous suspenders. She asks, do you measure things with the suspenders? Because he has the measuring tape suspenders. And he's like, no, just my manlyhood. Okay. I think that's supposed to be a joke. Um, so he is doing a mock date. Figured they would try to do this first. Um, and she says, tone down the suspenders. When he does and he shows up here, she's like, you look more manly. But the mock date is quite awkward. He says that he's nervous. Then he says, I got something for you. A drawing. Because drawing is his thing. And, just ask, like, would you like a beverage? She says he normally drinks milk 2% like a kid. She says, you like fishing? What do you like about fishing? Oh, well, just got lost in your eyes there. What the fuck? Harold. The Dolly, sorry, is like, can I come in now? So we like the drawing. The drawing was great, but you gave it too soon. Do some more small talk. Conversation could be improved though. Okay. We wanted you to take the lead, which I guess he didn't do. Anyways, Harold now has his first official date at a cat drawing place. And he says he doesn't really like cats. He had a friend who actually had like his eyes clawed out or something. I don't know. And the problem though with this date is that the girl he's on the date with says he's not her type. He doesn't like cats. He holds her hand, but she says classy. It's not or sorry, not classy. Classy. That's not what I wrote. Sweaty, clammy. And so she says, it's not a nice feeling. His hands are not a nice feeling because they're clammy. I don't feel the spark. So that's not going to happen. And he ends up having another date. And we are practicing with Dolly to do some light touch before the date. And just to keep, because you're trying to encourage him to have some light touch. Don't go crazy, but you know. So he's meeting Amber, not Amber from earlier. She's taking him to eat some food, in particular, pig's ears. Amber says, Harold is sweet, but he's not what I expected. He is chubby and short, but I think it's okay that I'm not sexually attracted to him. It can come later. Love it. But good for Harold on eating these ears because God knows I wouldn't have. I'm telling you this right now. They are now going to go fly a kite. At the time of this recording, Dick Van Dyke has turned 100 years old. Love it. I love him. Protect him. Okay. Poor Harold has to run while holding his pants up because they're just falling down. This is why he should have suspenders. Here's the thing. I think he should wear the suspenders if he wants to wear the suspenders underneath the shirt so that they don't show. But anyways, but there was no wind, so the kite didn't actually fly up into the highest might. But he wants to open up to her about something. So he ends up telling her, I'm a little bit autistic. I don't think that exists. Actually, I know that doesn't really exist because, like I've mentioned, I have my brother who is autistic. So I don't think you can be a little bit autistic. Either you're on one end of the spectrum or you're on the other end of the spectrum, or maybe somewhere in the middle, but you're not a little bit autistic. Anyways, but she understands there is a spectrum, and she says if he never told her that he was autistic, she just wouldn't have noticed. But they do match on many levels. So with that, they do go on their second date, and they're going to be going on a boat. But he's going to be talking to her about her concerns that she had voiced to Dolly about his autism. And mainly, I think her issue with the autism. I think we do get into what she said. 'Cause I don't think Dolly mentioned what her concerns were, just that she had concerns. So we'll get into what those were. Um, but at one point, she went in to kiss him on the cheek, and he turned his head and kissed her on the lips. Now, initially, I thought, oh, it was an accident. It wasn't an accident. He did it on purpose. He's like, oh no, I saw her coming in and it was just instinct. I know I should be taking this slow. And with the idea of taking it slow, though, she ends up talking about sex. And he says, so I've had sex in a car, in a field, one in a movie theater. And her worry, well, before we get into her worries about autism, she does talk about, I think she talked about places that she had, or did she? Maybe she didn't. I honestly can't remember now. But anywho's, they do get into her worries about autism, mainly autism with having to do with their children. And he says, listen, if it happens, I will recognize it because I know and we will address things. Or he knows what to look for and they'll address things. So Harold meets up with Dolly and she tells him, you gotta slow down, enjoy this. But he says, I want to solidify the relationship because I didn't do that with Michaela. Just because he didn't do that with Michaela does not mean that you need to do this with Amber so that Amber sticks around. You know what I mean? Anyway, so he is meeting her friend Joe. Joe is great. They do talk a little bit about his history and other things, and he says, well, I met a girl at McDonald's, you know, and he basically like went up to this girl at the McDonald's counter and was like, come on over and see my rock collection. So they kind of talk about like how many girls have you met here in Singapore? Only two, including Amber. He said, well, what happened? Well, there's just no chemistry. She didn't check off all my boxes. I have a checklist. And she was like, what? A checklist? So did she tell you about our kiss? Meaning, did Amber tell you about our kiss? What? No. And she's like, it was an accident. Doesn't count. Anyways. So he has decided, I guess, in a way where he can take it slow, but also not take it slow, is he decided to extend his stay. And he is on another date with her. And he ends up telling her, I would like to spend more time with you. So I've extended my stay and she's all about it. But that's basically it. Just the kind of the wrap up for them or for Harold was that Amber had ended things. He ended up meeting a girl in Taiwan and was going to propose, but then ended things with her as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That's Amber, Harold, and who was the other person we talked about? Oh, Monica. Those are our three there. So when we come back in the next episode, we're going to be talking about Victoria, Sarah, and Tony. So those are who we're going to be talking about. But then anyway, that is it for me. That is it for this episode. If you liked what you heard, bear with me because I have not done an outro for the podcast in quite some time. So bear with me here. So if you liked what you heard, you can go to any of your favorite podcast apps, You can like, follow, make sure you don't miss a single episode. And you can also rate the podcast at either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It'd be greatly appreciated. As a reminder, any 5-star ratings that are given to the podcast or any comments that are given to the podcast will be read on the podcast, which I have done in the past. If you want to connect with the podcast through social media, you can find me at Facebook and Instagram at Reality T times 2. You can also find me at Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Reality times 2 pod, I believe. You can email me at realityt times 2 at hotmail.com, and you can have any inquiries, anything like that, any ideas, any shows or episodes you want me to cover, you can definitely do that over there. And I am going back to our old website, and that is at solo.to/realityt times 2. There you can get any of the links to anything that I didn't mention here, any of the socials, website, email, all of that. It's all there for you. And we also have a new thing there where you can help support the podcast as well. It's called a tip jar. And you could tip whatever your heart's desire if you want to support the podcast, but don't want to necessarily support the podcast in going to Patreon, for example, or any of the links in any of the advertisements. You can do it there. But since we're on the topic of Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/reality T times 2, where there you can get access to even more than what I do here. There are 3 different tiers where you can get these shows ad free, as well as our next tier up where you would get another reality show that's being covered. So, we have Jersey Shore that's been getting covered. That's still being covered currently at the time of recording of this outro, but the future is bright with what's to come in the future, which I will be discussing, or I have discussed. I don't even know. And then also our next tier is a true crime tier as well. So you can definitely head over for that. But that is basically it. I will also just quickly mention here too, if you're interested in a different take of a podcast that I'm a part of, where we do things a little differently, you can head on over to Next Take Podcast, where I usually drop bonus episodes here on this feed, but there you get a lot more. And that podcast is making changes. We're growing, doing new things, but you can definitely head on over there if you want to just hear a little bit different than what I do over here. So you can find that podcast over at our website, solo.to/next take podcast. And there we'll have all the links to your desire that will link you to any of your favorite podcast apps or YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of it. Social medias, it's all over there. But of course, you can still find that podcast at any of your favorite podcast apps. But that is it for this episode. We'll see you next time with another episode. Bye, everybody.